Hey guys, what's going on? This is Resident Evil Freak, and this is also my first video game review. I'm going to talk a little bit about Resident Evil 6, what I think about it, and yeah, let's get started. I've seen the trailers, and it looks like a really enjoyable game. You know, we've got a little over 2 months to wait for the game to come out. It comes out on October the 2nd, and I definitely have already pre-ordered it, and yeah, it looks really good. So I've actually made a small list of a couple things I look forward to seeing in the game, and a couple things I don't want to see in the game. So let's get started. Things I don't want to see in the game. I don't want to see any more self-destruct systems. This has been a major staple on the Resident Evil series. Very cliche, in my opinion. What they've done, they've done it in Resident Evil 1, they've done it in Resident Evil 2, they've done it in Resident Evil Code Veronica, and Resident Evil 4 and 5. So, I think that, they can have like explosions in the game, by timers, but no self-destruct systems. It's kind of annoying, especially when I hear the same siren over and over and over again. It's like, yeah, Capcom, you kind of need to, move on from that. Alright, another thing I don't want to see in Resident Evil 6 are slow motion rocket launcher kills at the end of a major boss. They did this in every single Resident Evil game except Code Veronica and I believe Zero. So, and I think they sort of did it in Resident Evil 3. It wasn't really a rocket launcher, it was like a laser beam, or a cannon, my bad. But the point is, that also kind of got a little annoying, in my opinion. If it was a slow motion, if it was like a slow motion like laser beam right through the last enemy, then I'd be fine with that. But I think they've kind of overdone it with the rocket launcher. But that's just my opinion. And the last thing I don't want to see in Resident Evil 6 are zombies with assault rifles, especially the mobile ones. They did this a lot in Resident Evil 5, and they sort of did it in Resident Evil 4. It wasn't that bad, but Resident Evil 5, it was really annoying. It kind of made the game a little bit less enjoyable, in my opinion. I'm tired of having a couple I'm tired of having to duck down and cover because there's a zombie with an AK-47 who, with one shot, will take out a quarter of my health. So, yeah, I'm sure a lot of Resident Evil freaks out there would agree with me on this one. So, yeah, I just prefer that, they use their bare hands. But anyways, onto the list of things I do want to see in Resident Evil 6. I'd like to see some new BOWs, actually. Resident Evil 5, I can guarantee you at least half of the creatures that they used in that game had been taken from previous Resident Evil games. Like, they used the Lickers from Resident Evil 2. They used the chainsaw Majini, which was actually Dr. Salvador from Resident Evil 4. What else did they use? They used, what's his name? Medusa, which was El Gigante from Resident Evil 4. So I just think that, Capcom's creative. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to come up with a new BOW that looks disgusting, but it's, powerful and scary at the same time. I'm sure they could come up with some new ones, and I definitely hope to see some new ones in the game in Resident Evil 6. This is actually one that I know at least half of the Resident Evil community wants. I want to see some actual zombies in Resident Evil 6. In Resident Evil 4 and 5, they used Ganados and Majini, which really, I'm not saying it was annoying, but they weren't anywhere compared to the zombies that they used in Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, or Resident Evil 0. In my opinion, it's the sole base of what Resident Evil stood for, in my opinion. In the late 90s and the early 2000s when Resident Evil was really good, in my opinion. I'm not saying that, the Ganados and the Majini from RE4 and 5 were bad, but they kind of took the meaning of Resident Evil away from those games, and in my opinion, they didn't make them true Resident Evil games, in my opinion. The zombies are what make Resident Evil. It's what it is today, or what it used to be in my, what I'm saying. Um, Another thing I want to see in Resident Evil 6 are the typewriters. That was also another trademark that Resident Evil used a lot in the games. I kind of like, going into a save room with a cool theme. That's another thing I'll get to in a minute. Um, I liked, going into I liked using the typewriter, having 20 or so slots to pick from. And instead of having like what they did in Resident Evil 5 was one saved profile and that was it, you know. So hopefully they bring those back. And the last thing I want to see, I want to hear some really good music in Resident Evil 6. I am a music freak. That is one of the things which, in my opinion, actually changed my view on my favorite Resident Evil game. I told you guys that my favorite Resident Evil game last year was Resident Evil 3, but I have actually changed it to now Resident Evil Code Veronica. Code Veronica definitely set the record, in my opinion, for best Resident Evil game. And because of its music, that's what really made it good. Um, I like the music in Resident Evil 2 as well. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Code Veronica, in my opinion, had the best music out of all the Resident Evil games out there. So I definitely think that the composers should write some like not better music, but just enjoyable music. A good save theme. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Code Veronica had really good save themes, in my opinion. Um, so yep, hopefully they come up with some music that's really enjoyable. It sets the theme of the game, and yeah, uh, I believe that's it. You guys can go ahead and check. I'm about to start my Resident Evil 4 walkthrough, or my remake walkthrough. It's coming up pretty soon, so I hope you guys enjoy that. And yep, I definitely intend on doing Resident Evil 6 when it comes out, so hopefully you guys stay forward for that, and I hope you guys enjoy yourselves. See ya.